So Ghislaine Maxwell finally spoke. Not to the press, not to survivors, not to a courtroom, to the Department of Justice, 2 days, 7 hours, and what did we get? A sanitized transcript, a few audio clips with names bleeped out, and a woman who still thinks she's the victim. Welcome to 2025, where convicted traffickers get interviews and the public gets redactions. I'm Kash Patel, and today we're diving into the Maxwell tapes. The ones they didn't want you to hear. The ones they released just enough of to say we're being transparent, while keeping the real rot buried. Maxwell's tone, not remorseful, rehearsed. She called Epstein complicated, called the victims confused, and called herself a scapegoat. That word again. As if recruiting minors for a billionaire predator was just bad optics. She described her role as logistics, booking flights, managing schedules, coordinating guests. Guests. Not victims, not children, guests. She said, "I never saw anything illegal," then admitted to organizing over 30 trips to Epstein's Island with girls under 18. From Eastern Europe, South America, Florida. She said they were always smiling, as if trauma doesn't wear a mask. She talked about the closet. Yes, that closet. The one survivors mentioned, filled with restraints, costumes, devices. She said it was part of the aesthetic, like it was interior design. She laughed during the interview, twice. Once when asked about Prince Andrew, once when asked about the tapes. She said, "I don't know where they are," then paused, then said, "I assume they were destroyed." Not denied, not fabricated, destroyed. She named names, but they were redacted. She referenced powerful friends, high-level guests, people who wouldn't want their names in the press. And the DOJ, they bleeped it all out because transparency has limits, especially when it threatens the elite. She said, "I was loyal to Epstein, loyal to the network, loyal to silence." She said, "I regret nothing," then asked for water. This wasn't an interview, it was a performance, a final act from a woman who knows she'll never face real consequences because she already got the deal, already served the time, already buried the truth, and now she's rewriting the story, one redacted sentence at a time. The DOJ released the transcripts, but not the names, not the dates, not the evidence, just enough to say we did our job, not enough to say we told the truth. Maxwell's interviews don't expose her. They expose the system, the one that gave her immunity, gave her protection, gave her a platform, while survivors were silenced, while tapes were erased, while agents looked away. This isn't closure, it's theater, and we're supposed to clap, but we won't. Because we remember, we know the names, we know the flights, we know the closet, and we know that justice isn't a transcript, it's accountability. The most disturbing part? She wasn't even trying to hide it. She spoke like someone who knew the statute of limitations had expired on both her crimes and the public's outrage. She said things like, "I was just trying to help Jeffrey manage his relationships," as if she was a personal assistant, not a recruiter. She described the girls as young, yes, but very mature for their age, which is predator speak for, "I knew exactly what I was doing." And when asked about the recruitment process, she said, "It was mostly word of mouth. They came to us, they came to us." That's how she framed it. Like it was a job fair, like these girls were applying for internships, not being groomed and trafficked. She was asked about the island. She said it was a place of peace. Her words, a place of peace. For who? The billionaires, the politicians, the scientists and CEOs who flew in on private jets and left with memories no one was supposed to talk about? She said, "We had rules. No phones, no cameras, no questions, and somehow that was supposed to sound normal." She even described the security setup, biometric gates, private guards, encrypted communications, not for safety, for secrecy. Because when you're running a blackmail factory disguised as a private paradise, the last thing you want is a paper trail. And then came the part that made even the DOJ flinch. She was asked about the tapes, the surveillance system, the cameras hidden in clocks, in smoke detectors, in bedroom walls. She said Jeffrey liked to keep records. He believed in leverage. She didn't deny it. She didn't even hesitate. She said, I don't know where the footage is now. I assume it was handled. That's the word she used. Not deleted, not destroyed. Handled, which in elite speak means someone powerful has it and it's never seeing daylight. She was asked if she ever feared being exposed. She said, not really. We were protected. That's the moment the room should have gone silent. Protected. By who? She didn't say. She didn't have to, because everyone already knows. Protected by money, by connections, by agencies that saw Epstein not as a criminal but as an asset. Protected by a system that doesn't collapse when it fails. It adapts, it rebrands, it buries. And the DOJ, they just nodded, took notes, redacted the names, released the transcript with a press release that said, we believe this contributes to public understanding. Public understanding of what? That the people who ran this operation are still out there? That the victims are still waiting for justice while the perpetrators are giving interviews from minimum security cells with catered meals and yoga classes? This wasn't justice. It was PR, a performance, a carefully staged confession with all the sharp edges sanded down. And the worst part, it worked. The headline said, Maxwell speaks. The pundits said she's finally cooperating. And the public, most of them moved on because that's what the system counts on. Outrage fatigue, scandal saturation, the next big thing, but not everyone forgets. Some of us are still watching, still listening, still connecting the dots they hoped we'd ignore. Let's talk about the agents in the room, the ones who conducted the interview, the ones who nodded politely while Maxwell spun her narrative. These weren't rookies. These were senior DOJ interrogators flown in from DC, briefed, prepped, and told exactly how far they could go, and more importantly, how far they couldn't. They didn't press her on the tapes. They didn't challenge her on the names. They didn't even flinch when she said, we were protected, because they already knew. This wasn't an interrogation, it was a formality, a box to check, a performance for the record, and the political pressure off the charts. The White House didn't want this interview to happen. The FBI didn't want it released. The intelligence community wanted it sealed. But Bondi's task force pushed it through, not because they believed in justice, but because they needed a win, a headline, something to say, look, we're doing something. So they gave us the illusion of transparency. A redacted transcript, a few audio snippets, and a press release that said, we believe this contributes to public understanding. Public understanding of what? That the system still protects its own? That the truth only comes out when it's been edited, filtered, and stripped of names? And let's not forget the survivors, the ones who watched this unfold from the sidelines, who read the transcript and saw their stories twisted, minimized, erased. One of them posted, she called me a guest. I was 15. Another said, she laughed about the closet. I still have nightmares about that room. These women didn't get interviews, they didn't get press conferences, they got silence, and now they get to watch their abuser rewrite history from a prison that looks more like a retreat than a cell. But here's the part they didn't plan for. The public didn't buy it. The internet lit up. Hashtags exploded. Independent journalists started cross-referencing the redactions with flight logs, court documents, and leaked emails. And guess what? The names started to surface. Not officially, not through the DOJ, but through the people. Through the ones who never stopped digging, never stopped asking, never stopped remembering. Because this isn't just about Maxwell. It's about the ecosystem that allowed her to operate. The donors, the handlers, the agents who looked away, the prosecutors who cut deals, the politicians who flew in and out of that island like it was a weekend getaway, and the institutions that still, to this day, refuse to name them. This interview wasn't closure. It was a reminder that the system doesn't confess. It calculates. It doesn't apologize. It adapts, and it doesn't collapse. It protects itself. The media did what it always does. Some outlets called it a step toward healing. Others said Maxwell finally showed remorse. One headline read, "Ghislaine speaks and America listens." Number, America didn't listen. America filtered. America scrolled. And the survivors, they watched their pain get repackaged into a redemption arc. Because that's what happens when the system wants closure without accountability. It turns predators into misunderstood figures. It turns interviews into therapy sessions. And it turns justice into a brand. Behind the scenes, there was panic. Former agents started lawyering up. Politicians made calls. Tech firms scrubbed old data. Because even a redacted transcript can be dangerous when the public starts connecting dots. And they did. Flight logs, donation records, surveillance patents. Suddenly the story wasn't just about Maxwell, it was about the infrastructure, the network, the machine.